Every single limitation in your life is a lie that you've accepted as truth, while you're making excuses about your background, your education, your resources, or your circumstances. There's someone with fewer advantages than you creating the exact life you claim is impossible for you. The difference isn't talent, luck, or opportunity. The difference is that they refuse to let their mind be a prison while you've decorated your cell and called it home. You've been convinced that thinking small is being realistic, that accepting less is being grateful, and that playing it safe is being smart. But these are the very thoughts that guarantee you'll never experience the extraordinary life that's waiting for you right now, at this very moment. There are two people sitting in identical circumstances. One will rise above their situation and create extraordinary success. The other will remain trapped, making excuses, blaming others, and living a life of quiet desperation. The difference between these two people is not their background, their education, their connections, or even their opportunities. The difference is something invisible, something powerful, something that determines everything. Their mindset, you see. Most people have been programmed to lose before they even start. They wake up every morning carrying invisible chains in their minds. These chains were forged by years of negative conditioning, limiting beliefs, and toxic thinking patterns that have convinced them they are powerless. But I want to tell you something that will shake you to your core. Every single limitation in your life exists first in your mind before it manifests in your reality. Your mindset is not just positive thinking or motivation. Your mindset is the invisible operating system that runs your entire life. It determines what you see as possible, what you believe you deserve, how you respond to challenges, and ultimately what you create in this world. When you understand how to develop an undefeated mindset, you possess the most powerful weapon against any obstacle, any setback, any circumstance that life throws at you. Let me share with you the story of Maria Rodriguez. Maria worked as a janitor in a downtown office building for 12 years. Every night she cleaned the offices of successful executives, lawyers, and business owners. For 12 years, she watched these people live the life she dreamed about. But Maria had something most people don't have. She refused to accept that her current situation was her permanent destination. One night, while cleaning the office of a real estate developer, Maria noticed a book left open on his desk. The page was about investment strategies, and something clicked in her mind. Instead of seeing herself as just a cleaner, she began to see herself as someone who was learning from the inside. She started reading every book, every document, every piece of information she could find in those offices. She wasn't stealing, she was educating herself. But here's what made Maria different. When other people looked at her situation, they saw a poor cleaning lady with no opportunities. When Maria looked at her situation, she saw access to the greatest business education in the world. She was literally inside the offices of millionaires every single night. The circumstances were identical, but her mindset transformed those circumstances into advantages. Maria began to understand that her real job wasn't cleaning buildings. Her real job was preparing her mind for the success that was coming. She started saving every penny she could, not because she was cheap, but because she was preparing for opportunity. She studied real estate during her breaks, listened to business podcasts while she worked, and most importantly, she began to think like an investor instead of an employee. 3 years later, Maria bought her first small property. 5 years after that, she owned a portfolio of rental properties that generated more monthly income than her annual salary as a janitor. Today, Maria Rodriguez owns a real estate company with over 50 employees. But the transformation didn't happen when she bought her first property. The transformation happened the night she decided to change what she saw. When she looked at her situation, this is the power of mindset. Maria didn't get a new opportunity. She developed the mental capacity to see the opportunity that was already there. She didn't wait for her circumstances to change. She changed her relationship with her circumstances. She didn't hope for a better future. She programmed her mind to create one. The difference between victims and victors is not talent, education, connections, or even opportunity. The difference is mental conditioning. Victims see problems everywhere they look. Victors see possibilities in the same situations. Victims focus on what's wrong with their circumstances. Victors focus on what they can do within their circumstances. Victims wait for permission to succeed. Victors give themselves permission to become extraordinary. Your mind is like a garden right now. That garden is producing whatever has been planted there over the years. If you have weeds of doubt, fear, and limitation growing in your mental garden, your life will reflect those weeds. But if you plant seeds of possibility, courage, and determination, your life will bloom with success beyond your wildest dreams. Most people are gardeners who complain about their harvest but never examine their seeds. They want different results but continue thinking the same thoughts. They want to change their lives but refuse to change their minds. This is like expecting apples from an orange tree. It's impossible and it's insane. But when you understand that your mindset is the seed of everything you experience, you realize that you have been given the most incredible power in the universe, the power to choose what grows in the garden of your mind. You can decide what thoughts you entertain, what beliefs you accept, and what possibilities you embrace. An undefeated mindset is not about being unrealistic or ignoring problems. An undefeated mindset is about developing the mental strength to find solutions instead of excuses, to see opportunities instead of obstacles, and to create possibilities where others see impossibilities. It's about training your mind to be stronger than your circumstances, bigger than your problems, and more powerful than any force that tries to defeat you. The moment you decide to develop an undefeated mindset, you are no longer at the mercy of external circumstances. You become the author of your own story, the architect of your own destiny, and the master of your own fate. But this power comes with responsibility. The responsibility to think thoughts that serve your vision, to believe beliefs that build your future, and to maintain mental disciplines that keep you undefeated regardless of what happens around you. Now, let me show you something that will revolutionize how you understand your mind. Your mind is constructed exactly like a building. And just like any building, if the foundation is weak, everything built on top of it will eventually collapse. Most people are trying to change their lives by decorating the walls while the foundation is crumbling beneath them. Think about this for a moment. When an architect designs a skyscraper, they don't start with the paint color or the furniture. They start with the foundation. They dig deep into the earth, lay steel reinforcement, and pour concrete that can support the weight of everything that will be built above it. Your mind works the same way. Your deepest beliefs are the foundation. Your core thoughts are the framework, and your daily actions are the finishing touches. But here's what most people don't understand. If your foundation is designed for a small building, you cannot build a mansion on top of it. If your core beliefs are designed for mediocrity, you cannot build extraordinary success on top of them. This is why so many people work hard but see little change in their lives. They are trying to build a palace of success on a foundation of limitation. Let me tell you about James Patterson. James was a smart man, educated, hardworking, and ambitious. He started 3 different businesses over 10 years, and all 3 failed. Each time, he blamed external factors, the economy, the competition, bad timing. But James kept experiencing the same pattern of failure, and he couldn't understand why. One day, after his 3rd business collapsed, James was sitting in his car feeling defeated when something occurred to him. He realized that while the circumstances of each failure were different, there was one constant factor in all 3 situations: him. Not his skills, not his work ethic, but something deeper, his mental programming. James began to examine his deepest beliefs about money, success, and his own worthiness. What he discovered shocked him. Buried deep in his subconscious mind were beliefs that he inherited from his family, his culture, and his past experiences. Beliefs like rich people are greedy, Success requires sacrifice of family, and people like me don't deserve wealth. These beliefs were operating like invisible software, sabotaging every effort he made to succeed. Every time James got close to real success, this mental programming would kick in and find ways to destroy what he was building. It was like having a thermostat in his mind set to struggle, and whenever his life temperature tried to rise above that setting, the thermostat would kick in and bring him back down. But when James understood this architecture of his mind, everything changed. He realized he couldn't just change his actions, he had to change his blueprint. He had to dig up those limiting beliefs and replace them with beliefs that could support the life he wanted to build. Your mind has 3 distinct layers, and you must understand all 3 if you want to develop an undefeated mindset. The first layer is your surface thoughts, the conscious ideas you think about every day. The second layer is your core beliefs, the deeper convictions about yourself, others, and the world. The third layer is your foundational assumptions, the deepest programming about what's possible, what you deserve, and who you are. Most people only try to change the surface layer. They read motivational quotes, repeat positive affirmations, and try to think happy thoughts. But surface changes on a faulty foundation will never create lasting transformation. It's like painting a house while the foundation is sinking. It might look better temporarily, but the fundamental problem remains. The reason most people stay defeated is not because they lack motivation or opportunity. The reason they stay defeated is because they are trying to live an extraordinary life on an ordinary foundation. They are trying to build confidence on a foundation of insecurity. They are trying to build wealth on a foundation of scarcity thinking. They are trying to build relationships on a foundation of unworthiness. You cannot build what your foundation cannot support. This is why you must learn to think like an architect of your own mind. You must be willing to excavate the limiting beliefs that are buried deep in your subconscious. You must be willing to pour new mental concrete that can support the weight of your dreams. You must be willing to construct a mental framework that is designed for victory, not defeat. When you understand that your mind is architecture, not accident, you realize that you have the power to renovate, reconstruct, and rebuild every aspect of your mental structure. But first, you must be willing to examine the blueprint you are currently using and ask yourself this critical question. Is this mental foundation designed to support the life I want to create? Now comes the part that separates those who merely understand from those who transform. Understanding that your mind needs reconstruction is only the beginning. Actually doing the reconstruction work, that's where champions are made. And I must warn you, this process requires courage. Because before you can build something new, you must first demolish what's already there. Mental demolition is not about destroying yourself. Mental demolition is about destroying the thoughts, beliefs, and patterns that are destroying you. It's about taking a mental sledgehammer to the walls of limitation that have been holding you prisoner. It's about clearing the mental rubble so you can build something magnificent in its place. Let me share with you the remarkable story of Rebecca Thompson. Rebecca was a single mother of 2 children, living on welfare, barely surviving from month to month. For 3 years, she had been trapped in a cycle of poverty that seemed impossible to break. Every time she tried to get ahead, something would happen. A sick child, a broken car, an unexpected bill that would pull her back down. Rebecca's mind had been programmed for survival, not success. Every thought was about making it through the day. Every decision was based on fear, and every dream had been buried under the weight of immediate problems. She had built a mental fortress designed to protect her from disappointment. But that same fortress was also protecting her from opportunity. One night, Rebecca was reading a bedtime story to her youngest daughter when something inside her snapped. She realized that her children were learning to think about life the same way she did, with limitation, fear, and resignation. She was not just living in poverty, she was teaching poverty to the next generation. That night, Rebecca made a decision that changed everything. She decided to demolish her poverty mindset and rebuild her mind for abundance. The first thing Rebecca did was identify every thought pattern that kept her defeated. She wrote down every excuse she made, every fear she entertained, and every limitation she accepted. Then she did something powerful. She declared war on those thoughts. Every time a poverty thought entered her mind, she immediately replaced it with an abundance thought. Every time fear tried to make a decision for her, she chose courage instead. But Rebecca went deeper than just changing her thoughts. She began to change her entire mental environment. She stopped watching television programs that reinforced struggle. She stopped listening to conversations that celebrated victimhood. She stopped reading materials that confirmed her limitations. Instead, she filled her mind with stories of people who had overcome similar circumstances. Rebecca understood something crucial. You cannot build a new mindset in the same mental environment that created the old one. You must change what you feed your mind, what you expose your mind to, and what you allow your mind to accept as truth. Mental reconstruction requires mental isolation from toxic influences and mental immersion in empowering influences. The reconstruction process was not easy. There were days when the old patterns fought back with incredible force. There were moments when circumstances seemed to confirm that her old beliefs were correct. But Rebecca had learned the principle of mental momentum. Every time you choose the new thought over the old thought, the new thought becomes stronger and the old thought becomes weaker. Within 6 months, Rebecca had enrolled in a business course. Within a year, she had started a small cleaning business. Within 3 years, she had expanded into commercial cleaning and hired 12 employees. Today, Rebecca's company generates multiple 6 figures annually, and she has created a scholarship fund for single mothers who want to start their own businesses. But the real transformation was not in Rebecca's bank account. The real transformation was in how her children learned to think about possibilities instead of learning limitation. They learned expansion. Instead of learning fear, they learned faith. Instead of learning survival, they learned creation. Rebecca didn't just change her life, she changed her family's legacy. The stories I've shared with you are not fairy tales. They are blueprints. Maria, James, and Rebecca all discovered the same truth, that you must understand. An undefeated mindset is not built in a moment of inspiration. It is forged through daily mental disciplines that become as automatic as breathing. Success is not an event. It is a system of thinking that produces consistent results. Your mind is like a muscle. If you exercise it with empowering thoughts, it becomes strong and capable. If you exercise it with defeating thoughts, it becomes weak and unreliable. The tragedy is that most people spend more time training their bodies than training their minds. Yet, it is their mind that determines everything they will become. The first discipline of an undefeated mindset is mental hygiene. Just as you brush your teeth every morning to prevent decay, you must clean your mind every morning to prevent mental contamination. This means starting each day by consciously choosing what thoughts you will entertain and what thoughts you will reject. You must become the security guard of your own mind, allowing only thoughts that serve your vision to enter every morning. Before you check your phone, before you talk to anyone, before you engage with the world, spend time programming your mind for victory. Review your goals, visualize your success, and remind yourself of who you are becoming. This is not positive thinking. This is mental programming. You are literally installing software in your mind that will run automatically throughout the day. The second discipline is developing mental immunity. Just as your body can develop immunity to physical diseases, your mind can develop immunity to mental viruses, doubt, fear, negativity, and limitation. These mental viruses are constantly trying to infect your thinking through news, conversations, social media, and even your own past experiences. Mental immunity is built by exposing your mind to controlled doses of empowering information while strengthening your ability to reject toxic information. Read biographies of people who overcame impossible odds. Study the strategies of those who built extraordinary lives. Fill your mind with evidence that what you want to achieve is not only possible, but inevitable when you think and act correctly. The third discipline is mental expansion. Your mind, like a container, will only hold what it has been designed to hold. If your mental container is designed for small thinking, it will overflow when big opportunities come. You must constantly stretch your mental capacity by thinking bigger thoughts, entertaining larger possibilities, and challenging your own limitations. Start thinking about problems that are bigger than your current problems instead of focusing on how to pay this month's bills. Focus on how to build wealth that makes bill-paying automatic. Instead of thinking about getting a better job, think about creating a business that provides jobs for others. When you expand your thinking, you expand your capacity to handle bigger challenges and create bigger results. The fourth discipline is mental multiplication. Everything you think, believe, and do creates a ripple effect that touches every area of your life. One changed thought leads to changed emotions. Changed emotions lead to changed actions. Changed actions lead to changed results. Changed results lead to changed circumstances. This is the multiplication effect of mental transformation. But here's what most people miss. The multiplication effect works in both directions. If you allow one area of your thinking to remain defeated, it will eventually contaminate every other area. This is why you cannot afford to have defeating thoughts about anything. You must develop the discipline to think like a winner in every situation, about every challenge, in every circumstance. Mental victory must be total, not partial. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they must make the ultimate decision. Will they live as someone who occasionally thinks like a winner, or will they become someone who can never be defeated? The difference between these two choices is the difference between temporary success and permanent transformation. It is the difference between having good days and creating a good life. When you truly develop an undefeated mindset, something fundamental shifts inside you. You stop trying to become successful and start being successful. You stop hoping for a better future and start creating one. You stop waiting for opportunities and start recognizing that you are the opportunity the world has been waiting for. Let me tell you about David Rodriguez, Maria's younger brother. When Maria was transforming her life from janitor to real estate mogul, David was watching from the sidelines with skepticism. He couldn't understand how his sister, who came from the same poor family, who faced the same limitations, who had even fewer advantages than him, could create such extraordinary success. David was working in a factory, making decent money, living a comfortable but unremarkable life. He wasn't struggling like Maria had been, but he wasn't thriving either. He was stuck in what I call the middle zone, not poor enough to be desperate, not rich enough to be fulfilled. The middle zone is the most dangerous place to live because it's comfortable enough to keep you there, but limiting enough to slowly kill your dreams. For 2 years, David watched Maria's transformation with a mixture of admiration and doubt. Part of him was proud of his sister's success, but another part of him was threatened by it. Her success was forcing him to confront uncomfortable questions about his own life. If Maria could change her circumstances so dramatically, what did that say about his own choices? If she could create wealth from nothing, what excuse did he have for settling for mediocrity? One evening, Maria invited David to a real estate investment meeting. He didn't want to go, but she insisted. At that meeting, David heard story after story of ordinary people who had created extraordinary wealth through real estate investing. But something else happened that night that changed David's life forever. He realized that the difference between him and these successful investors was not knowledge, but money, not connections. It was identity. These people didn't just know about real estate. They thought like investors. They didn't just want to make money. They saw themselves as wealth creators. They didn't just hope for financial freedom. They lived as if they were already financially free. They had developed what David later called an investor identity that guided every decision they made. That night, David made a decision that transformed his entire existence. He decided to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an entrepreneur. He decided to stop living like someone who worked for money and start living like someone who made money work for him. He decided to stop being David, the factory worker, and start being David, the business owner. But David's transformation was different from Maria's. While Maria had to overcome poverty and limitation, David had to overcome comfort and complacency. He had to leave a steady paycheck, predictable schedule, and secure job to pursue something uncertain but unlimited. He had to trade the safety of employment for the adventure of entrepreneurship. The first year was terrifying. David started a small construction business while still working at the factory. He worked 18-hour days, 7 days a week. There were nights when he questioned his decision, mornings when he wanted to quit, and moments when going back to the factory seemed like the smart choice. But every time doubt tried to defeat him, David remembered who he had decided to become. Not someone who played it safe, but someone who played to win within 3 years. David's construction business was generating more revenue than his factory job ever could within 5 years. He had expanded into home renovation and property development. Within 7 years, he was building custom homes for wealthy clients and had created a construction empire that employed over 40 people. But the most remarkable transformation was not in David's business, it was in his presence. When you met David before his transformation, you met a factory worker who had some entrepreneurial dreams. When you meet David today, you meet an entrepreneur who happens to have once worked in a factory. His identity had completely shifted. And that shift changed everything about how he showed up in the world. David's success created a ripple effect that touched his entire family. His children grew up watching their father build something from nothing, solve problems creatively, and lead people effectively. Instead of learning to work for someone else, they learned to create value for others. Instead of learning to follow, they learned to lead. Instead of learning to survive, they learned to thrive. This is what happens when you live as an undefeated person. You become a force for transformation in everyone around you. Your mindset becomes contagious. Your possibilities become inspiring. Your success becomes evidence that others can succeed too. You stop being someone who consumes opportunities and start being someone who creates opportunities for others. Living as an undefeated person means that failure is no longer something that happens to you, it becomes something that strengthens you. Challenges are no longer obstacles that stop you, they become training grounds that prepare you for bigger victories. Setbacks are no longer evidence that you're not meant to succeed, they become fuel that fires your determination to prove that you cannot be defeated. But the ultimate test of an undefeated mindset is not how you handle success, it's how you handle adversity. Anyone can maintain a positive attitude when everything is going well. The question is, can you maintain an undefeated mindset when everything seems to be going wrong? Can you find opportunity in the midst of crisis? Can you create solutions when everyone else is creating excuses? This is your moment right now as you hear these words. You have a choice to make. You can continue living with the mindset you've always had, getting the results you've always gotten, being the person you've always been, or you can decide right here, right now, to develop an undefeated mindset that will transform everything about your life. The choice is yours. But remember this, you are not just choosing for yourself. You are choosing for your children, your family, your community, and everyone whose life you will touch. When you develop an undefeated mindset, you become a gift to the world. You become proof that limitations are lies, that circumstances are temporary, and that with the right mindset, anything is possible. The world is waiting for the person you will become when nothing can defeat your mind.